The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Wolden. We got a great show for you. We're going to talk about the thoroughbreds. And speaking of thoroughbred guys here, Mr.
Wow.
I was Mr. Brett Howard. How you doing, my friend? Andrew?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Excellent. Of course, the Lloydminster source, editor, and glad to have you aboard as well as my co-host. And pleased to have our guest for this week, Mr. Justin Tyndall, who's familiar with the broadcast ranks, as well as a passionate ball player for the Midwest Expos. How are you?
Doing good. Obviously, you guys are hard up, but thanks for having me.
You know what? You're a great guy, and we appreciate you coming along
No
here
problem.
too as well. So I guess, guys, we'll start off with what happened at the Calgary Stampede. The GMC Rangeland Derby wrapped up, and Kurt Bensmiller, the man from Dewberry, is a champion once again. And it seemed like this time around was an easier time than, say, last year. And when you look at the way he was, third fastest time, penalty-free, really one of only, I guess, one driver in the top 10 that was penalty-free and had one of the faster times. Was this year pretty much a cakewalk for Mr., I guess, Bensmiller? Your thoughts?
I kind of think it's a two-part answer because watching the racing all week, Kurt obviously was very good. He had the aggregate throughout, but still being able to do that night in, night out, and to be penalty-free when 70% of the field was having trouble doing that, I don't think you can say that's easy. But when it comes to the final race itself, even Tom Glass said, you're looking at the four guys in there, and the guys on 2, 3, and 4 barrels. If you take their times and just average the times, take the penalties away, they're middle-of-the-pack guys with middle-of-the-pack outfits. And as long as Kurt turned that first barrel clean, which he did, I don't think it was a question of if he was going to win. It was just by how much. And Kelly come off the second barrel really good, but even when they were neck and neck there at the start, Kurt had the better horses and just walked away to victory.
And as you talked, he ran clean, and that was the key of this whole stampede, was people not running clean. Like Jason Glass eliminated himself. Like he came back, but he eliminated himself early by hitting a bunch of barrels early on. Sutherland Clan, same thing. A lot of them took themselves out. Kelly had to fight to get back into that barrel space. So I think he won it a cakewalk because everyone else kind of eliminated themselves from the process. Like all the CPCA guys pretty much eliminated themselves based on penalties and not showing up. And if you look at all guys like Colt Cosgrave and Aubrey Montalwato, same thing. Like they were in lead, then they got themselves out, and he just kept running clean, run fast, but ran clean. That's how you win in this sport.
And if you Montalwato as a prime example, a guy who was in the mix for the aggregate, then all of a sudden disappeared from the top 10 in penalties. And of course, Wayne Knight, the year before, a guy who made it to the final, was a top 4 finish, 82 seconds in penalties. That will definitely hurt you along the line. But we're going to move on to another championship, or another champion perhaps, the Lloydminster Twins. I know you're familiar with them, Justin. This is a team that is very good amongst the senior ranks here in the city. But there is another team that's challenging them, and that's the Border City Blue Jays. Could this be the year? And of course, not just outside of those two. There could be another team that comes in the mix. You never know. Meadow Lake Sox are another prime example, and those are teams that you faced and you're familiar with. Will we finally see a year where the Twins will be dethroned as NSRBL champs?
We could, but I wouldn't put money on it. Champs the champs until they're knocked off the top, and the Twins do a lot of things right. Jays have the best pitching staff in the league by far, probably the 3 guys across the board, 3 of the 4 hardest throwers in the league, in field, Latos and Fector. But still, if I was a betting man, I don't know how you bet against the Twins at this point.
No, I'm a betting guy, and I'll bet against the Twins. I think the Blue Jays just playing that too well to get to not win the championship. They're going to be the third year, probably in the finals. Twins, I don't think are going to make it there. That's my guess on this whole thing, is that the Twins are going to get knocked out, maybe even by unity, maybe even the second round. I don't think we're not going to see a three-peat of Twins and Blue Jays in the finals. So I think Blue Jays, this will be their year. They finally get over that hump and finally win a championship.
Do you think it's going to come down to pitching? And you mentioned this, Justin, that the Jays arguably have the best pitching staff in the league right now.
Oh, I think without a doubt they do. But I think if you're comparing the two lineups, nobody would take the Jays lineup over the Twins. And the Twins, with bunting, base running, baseball smarts, and IQ, they're not out of it. Absolutely not. And it's going to be a good series if those two guys go head to head. I think one thing that might actually be in the Twins' favor, Andrew makes a good point, is having unity in the first round, and they've got some stud arms down there too, and Wildeman and Phaser. And if the Twins can beat those guys and score some runs, especially win game 2 on the road, Unity's the hardest diamond to win on in the league. If they can win those first 2 games, and the Jays are coming off a series against Macklin where they probably didn't have to break a sweat, and those 2 teams may end up facing in the second round, depending how it all shakes out. It could be lining up right up the Twins alley where they can walk through the Jays in the second round and then finish off Wilkie or Meadow in the back end and get that 7th straight, I think it is.
All right. Well,
No, I just think it's going to be pitching. That's what baseball's about. It's how great you can pitch, and they have a great staff. I still pick Blue Jays. With that much staff power, I think you have advantage every time you go up to the plate.
Especially if you can make it a short series. That's, I think, what the Jays will need to do. And shutting out the opposition doesn't hurt, as they did in Game 1 against Macklin. How about this? We're talking about a pitcher, and we'll move on to the major leagues. So you have a guy named Jonathan Papelbon, a 6-time All-Star, a guy who's helped out the Boston Red Sox win championships. So he's a pretty good arm, and there are a couple suitors out there. Right now in a situation with Philly, he's an outspoken guy and said, look, I want to win a championship. I don't want to be here. It's my right and my prerogative to say, trade me. Do you guys believe in that assessment? This guy is a proven winner, yes, but don't you feel there should be any type of loyalty to the Phillies in any way, shape, or form? Andrew, I'll start with you.
I think if you sign a contract that big, yeah, you should have some loyalty, but in the same sense, these guys want to win, and you got to, I guess, give it to a guy that, wants to continue, he wants to play, he wants to win, and that's what these guys are aiming to do every single year. So I don't know how, it's such a changing regard of sports where people don't really talk about what you want to do, and now people are openly coming out and saying, yes, I want to win, I want off this team. So I'm him, I'd want off too. Last place team in the league, have no shot whatsoever of playing. What's the point of him showing up to the ballpark? He wants to play meaningful baseball, and that's what he wants to do. So I believe perfectly he should be able to say what he wants and get off the team.
Yeah, there's 2 ways of looking at it, and I don't think the contract aspect is wrong. You sign a long-term deal for big money to be with the team, you should honor that agreement, but the Phillies case is just different. Like, it's a total yard sale there. They've messed that franchise up so badly. And when he signed there, they were a championship contending team, and they still have pieces, but they can't give away Ryan Howard. Chase Utley's going to sit on the bench now. Apparently, they found a better second baseman. They won 20-some games and lost 60. Like, the guy's got 14 saves, and his ERA is under 2. Like, when he's getting the ball, he's getting the job done. And this has been going on with Philly for a while, well back into the winter and the offseason and the tail end of last year. They knew they were bad. They were looking to add young pieces. There gets to be a point, and I mean, you can compare it to what the Oilers went through, where Mac T couldn't make a move, couldn't, turn young players, couldn't decide what to do. Him and Tambellini both. And you look at what Chiarelli's done since he got in there, and yeah, Connor McDavid makes it easy, but the Phillies general managers and even above them, the president and whoever's making the calls there, sitting on these players, and their value is just decreasing over time, and your return isn't going to be what it was. So when you're holding your cards close to your vest, but you're just deteriorating value on your good players, I just don't see how it makes sense. And the other thing is, we live in a day and age now where, back in the 40s and 50s, NHL guys never said anything because they didn't have the option. Hockey news never came out till the summer. You never found out about deals until later. The day and age we live in, there's a microphone in your face every single day. To expect guys not to say what's on their mind and to tell the truth, I think is just, it's ridiculous. I think we should appreciate the guys that do. He knows he's in a tough situation there. As long as he's in Philly, he's got his teammates to answer to, but he also knows that the end of the tunnel is coming pretty close, and I think he's absolutely right. Get him out of there, and as a Jays fan, I hope he ends up in Toronto, because
and that's the thing, yeah. Is he a good fit for a team like Toronto that is desperately looking for a closer right now? Brett Cecil hasn't been the guy they hoped for since spring training.
Perfect fit. That's what they need. They need a guy who can come in there and close, and then you said.
But would he be as effective for the Toronto Blue Jay team in particular?
Absolutely. He's got AL East experience. He's closed games in the World Series. I think he's exactly the kind of guy you want. There's a lot of closers out there and, a lesser number that are available. But if you look at guys who've closed out games in World Series games and closed out series clinching games, there ain't many, and he's still producing at a high level. I think he's exactly the guy you want. He thrived in Fenway. He's going to have to go back there multiple times. He's thrived in Old Yankee Stadium. He can do it again in New York. I think he'd be a great fit. Price point is obviously going to be a battle, and like I said, I don't think the Phillies upper management seems to know what they're doing. They're probably wanting Norris. Stroman's been mentioned multiple times. Yeah,
he's the one doing the work, and then with pitching being the baseball pitch is a one-on-one kind of sport, why wouldn't you want a player like that in Toronto? Mm-hmm. And Toronto's so used to getting players after they had a good season, so why not get a guy right now who's producing, having a great season, and put him in the lineup, and you'll win this year rather than wait till next year, then acquire him, and then he doesn't pitch well. So that seems to be the Toronto way. Wait until after they've had their career season, and then try to get him in the lineup. And
an important thing, too, would be just getting Osuna out of that closing role. I mean, the guy's only 20 years old. He's been brilliant all season, but the longer you keep running him out there in the ninth with that pressure in a playoff race, the higher the chances that he cracks and you maybe end up ruining a kid that looks like a sure thing right now.
All right, guys, we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to talk about those Toronto Blue Jays in a moment and see what you guys will offer in terms of grades coming up.